Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Holy FaceTime. Tonight is a special episode. It's March 6th, and I was reading this incredible story. I have to share it with you. Saint Colette, and it's her feast day today. I don't know. I never even heard of Saint Colette before, but when I heard it was her feast day, I started doing some research. And wow, I found some humdinger references to our Lord's holy face, but not just to his face, but references that lead us to believe in the promises that our Lord gave to those who would adore his holy face in the Passion. And this is some incredible stuff. And so I want to begin with first by reading a short bio on St. Colette. St. Colette was born in 1381 to a carpenter named de Bolette in Corbie Abbey, Picardy, France, and embarked on a remarkable journey of faith and reform after being orphaned at 17. Choosing to distribute her inheritance among the poor, she joined the Franciscan tertiaries and adopted a solitary life within Corbie Abbey. Her life took a transformative turn following visions of St. Francis of Assisi, who commanded her to restore the rule of St. Clare to its pristine strictness. Initially hesitant, Colette was struck by a temporary blindness, followed by muteness, each lasting 3 days, and she interpreted these afflictions as divine signals to pursuing her calling. So now I want to get into these miraculous stories of her life. First of all, the first thing was when she was a child, she was born and she was very small and petite, and her father feared that she was never going to grow. And he spoke really roughly one time about her, saying that he feared that she would never be able to look after anything, to be able strong enough or large enough to be able to do any housework or anything like that. And his wife was getting old, so he was getting worried about this. So he spoke out loudly about this, and I guess his daughter really took that to heart. So Colette, she went before Our Lady, and she just poured herself out to Our Lady in this statue that she was praying to and venerating, and she asked for Our Lady's intercession to obtain for her that she would be able to grow. And it seemed almost this happened like within a few days. There's different stories whether it happened completely overnight or within a few days, but she had this horrendous growth spurt where she was now all of a sudden a full-grown woman, tall, and not just tall, but incredibly beautiful. And and she really took this to heart, that she didn't want her beauty to be something that would deter or encourage men to look upon her. So she asked our Lord to take that beauty away, and he gave her a very pale, thin look on her face. But she still retained a certain beauty or whatever that people could see through that. So anyway, let's get into these incredible stories. I've got 3 stories from her life, from the book of the life of St. Colette. It was on a Friday that this vision was bestowed upon her as she prayed in the oratory. She saw our blessed Lord in the state to which his tormentors had reduced him. He was before her with his sacred body covered with wounds and with marks of blows, with his precious blood flowing over his torn flesh, with his anguished features disfigured with bruises, with his head crowned with thorns. There were the stripes of the scourges, the discolorations of the falls beneath the burden of the cross, the soilings of the dirt and of the insults of the people. Above all, there was the holy face, human in its expression of inconceivable suffering, divine in its majesty and power. Through her whole life, the remembrance of this sight never faded. We have it on her own authority. She spoke of it herself in her afterlife. She said it was, as it were, never absent from her, that the sight had seemed to pierce her soul with a lance, that this wound had left a permanent sense of sympathy and sorrow within her. Wow. So, now number 2. Her love for the divine office in her early youth had already been told, but love is a thing we cannot see. We can only believe in its existence and look for its fruits. Her children, her sisters, because she was the abbess of the convent. Her children, however, were to be wonderfully favored. To them, her devotion was to become visible. They were to see what God's servant felt. She had a sweet and powerful voice, and she always sung with her whole heart, full of the offering of prayer and praise, as it ever was. But as she stood in choir, Sister Perrine tells us, she became transfigured. The interior love and tenderness with which she was gifted became visible on her face. Under very severe bodily pains, she yet appeared glad and even glorified, for there were times when our Lord permitted the breath he employed in his service to be seen proceeding from her lips like waves of light, which illuminated the atmosphere above her. They saw her face luminous. They saw her whole body enveloped in splendor so brilliant as to light the oratory where she prayed. One of the sisters, entering her cell unexpectedly, fell down faint, unable to bear the resplendent sight that met her gaze. Whoa! Incredible. Number 3, the atmosphere around her would sometimes be like waves of light. Her countenance would be of an indescribable beauty. Her eyes would beam with heavenly splendor. And at Mass, the happiness of her heart would betray itself by low-breathed sighs of love, welcome and thanksgiving. Her emotion at the moment of elevation would overpower her. Notwithstanding all her desires to concede God's favors from the observation of those around her, she could not help betraying herself. When she was a child, she had come close to her mother's side, and at those times when that holy woman returned to her place after having received Holy Communion, saying that she was attracted towards her by a sweet and most delicate fragrance. But now the sight of him whom her soul loved attracted her, and she would fall as at his feet, as one who saw him face to face. Then the rebound of his love on her soul overcame the body, and she rose in the air as if to meet him. It was too sacred a sight for many eyes, and it was arranged that she should hear Mass by herself, or with only 1 or 2 favored nuns to bear her company. And she did this at an early hour whenever it was possible. That all her convents, there were innumerable witnesses to these heavenly favors, which were bestowed upon her in all places, and through her whole life she seemed to belong more to heaven than to earth. She was like an angel living among men, and yet by the exercise of her own free will, she must guide her life. She is fit to die, but constrained to live. It must remain within the limits of her own choice, notwithstanding all gifts, whether she will be saved or lost. Wow, all I can say is, this is amazing stuff, because this just reminds me so much of the precious promises that our Lord gave to Sister Marie de St. Pierre, that he would honor people that honored his holy face in the Passion, that he would give them this luminous glow, right, to them, that he would fill them with his countenance. And this is it. This Saint Colette, she lived this. She was she completely enamored herself, and she just poured herself into the love of our Lord's passion. She contemplated it all the time, and that and the Eucharist. She loved our Lord in the Eucharist. So these two things, of course, our Lord's holy face is in the Eucharist, but these two things together, understanding and adoring our Lord in his passion, particularly, looking upon his holy face, and seeing our Lord in the communion, these are the results of just amazing graces. Whatever we can do to follow in the footsteps of this saint, it's incredible. So Saint Colette, we just ask you, pray for your guidance and your wisdom and your intercession to help us to live these holy lives, that we may see our Lord truly every day, to just contemplate his holy face in the Passion, and to be able to live it in receiving him in the Eucharist. Anyway, I just had to share this with you because I was just over the moon when I read this stuff. And I'll leave a link in the show notes that you can actually download this PDF of this book from the archive.org, and you can read it for yourself. This book is incredible. I've only read a little bit of snippets here and there, but her whole life was a series of just miraculous occasions of adoring our Lord, and just be able to coming into that living heaven on earth. And that, don't we all desire that? And that's what the Holy Face devotion is all about, trying to live out our heaven on earth, right? Wow. Until next time, blessed be his holy name, and blessed be his adorable face. Seek his face and receive his grace. Bye now.